Our final author this morning is a best-selling novelist and the creator of the exciting detective character Harry Hole, which is also, I believe, one of the main characters from 50 Shades of Grey. Please welcome Joe Nesbo.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for having me as a guest in your country and in the great city of New York. I'm from Norway. I just arrived from Oslo yesterday, and so I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, being jet lagged, and I actually had 3 hours of or at least 2 hours of writing, just as I could see the sun coming up over probably Queens or Brooklyn, where my father grew up. So in a way, I feel partly like a New Yorker. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I became a writer. That is the most frequent asked question you get as a writer. How did you become a writer? I'm going to do this in English, of course, because normally when I travel around, you know, in Asia and the rest of Europe, I will, of course, speak English also, because you know, amazingly great proportion of the population in the world does not understand or speak Norwegian. But it's kind of easier to speak English there. Here it's you know, it's sort of intimidating to get to UK or America. I mean I sat here listening to all of you, and you know, there were words there that I didn't know existed in English. You know, you guys are so good at speaking English. It's that is actually the best part of reading my own books in English. You know, there are long words in there that I don't understand, and it makes me proud to, you know, I wrote that word. How I became a writer. I think writing is a response to reading. Just like playing music is a response to listening to music. I think that, for example, unlike marathon runners, I don't think their activity is necessarily a response to watching people running long distances. I think storytelling is a social reflex. Just think about it when you sit around a table with friends and somebody will tell a story. The immediate response will be to contribute with your own story. And maybe that's partly because we want the reward that comes with laughter or tears. But I think it's also a social reflex that if we are given something, we must bring something to the table ourselves. And I grew up in a storytelling tradition. When we had dinner, my father would be the most important contributor. He would tell stories, long stories, extremely long stories, actually. And I think I knew at a young age that these stories were hugely exaggerated versions of events that actually took place, while the two last were right out lies. But every time that we caught our father lying, he would refer to German scientist, Sepp Windler, who worked in the field of human behavior, and according to my father, won the Nobel Prize in 1968 for a work where he proved that in families where they lie on a regular basis. The average lifespan is 7 years longer than in families that strictly stick to the truth. My mother, who was a librarian, like some other of you, she was not a Sepp Windler fan herself, but more importantly, she would bring home books that she would read to us, mainly Norwegian writers, but my father would also read from American writers like Mark Twain and Finis Moore Cooper. So, although my parents didn't agree on the subject of lying, all in all, I grew up in a home where fiction and told tales were considered a good thing, even a healthy thing. So I guess where other kids aspired to be doctors to save the world, my call was to expand the average lifespan of humanity with gruesome tales of death and murder. But it took me some time to respond to that call. When I grew up, we had to write essays at school, and the titles of the essays would normally be like a trip to the woods, something like that. And I would write these essays, and they would be in the tradition of my father, far too long essays. In my essays, nobody would come back home alive. So my teachers, they were a bit concerned. When I didn't write essays, I would play soccer, read, and listen to my brother's records. I wouldn't play myself, but I started writing lyrics for my friends who all played in bands. And the plan A for my life was to become a professional soccer player. I played my first game in the sort of Norwegian major league, which doesn't say much, but it's a league for soccer teams. At the age of 17. At the age of 19, I broke the ligaments in both knees, so I had to come up with a plan B. So I started studying business administration and economics in Bergen on the west coast of Norway, and that is where I learned to play guitar. It's really hard because what I did, I borrowed not a 6-string guitar, but a 12-string guitar. And it's really hard. I don't know how many of you play the guitar, but you know that when you learn your first chords and you put your fingers on the guitar and you finally press in the right strings at the right places, you don't really want to move your fingers again. Especially when you play like a 12-string guitar. So what I would do was, there were no songs with just one chord in it. So I would make songs with just one chord. I just place my fingers and then I will make my own songs. After I had finished studying, I would form my own band in Oslo, one-chord band. Actually, by the time we had expanded to 3 chords, but we would play at this small club in Oslo. The reason why we got gigs there was that the bass player, he worked at the place, and we would play for free or for beer. We were so bad, so in order to make people come back the next weekend, we would change the name of the band every week. But after having played there for around 2 years, we would actually get a little better. And some people actually liked our songs. And since we didn't have a regular name, they would ask for those guys or that band. And that was the name that we eventually made our band name. It was those guys or that band. And since my bass player also worked in a record store, he would frequently have people coming in asking for, not remembering the name of the band or the album, asking, that band with that album. So our first album would be called That Album with That Band. And our first album sold 5,000. We were very impressed with that. Our record company was not that impressed. But with our second album, we had a huge success with 2 singles, and suddenly we were playing all over the country, big gigs. But at the time, I was working as a stockbroker. And I was the only guy in the band who was the full-time musician. So my life would be like this. I would be at my office when the what do you call it? Stock market, the stock exchange was open. I worked with this for 9 years. I should know the words in English. But anyway. So I would work there until it closed at 4 o'clock. Then I would grab my bag and I would run into the street, get a cab to get to the airport, where a plane would take me to wherever my band was playing that night. They were traveling on a bus, so I will get there hopefully in time for the sound check, at least in time for the gig. And then we would play the gig. The rest of the band, the guys would go off to some party with some beautiful blonde girls. I would head back to the hotel, get some hours sleep, get the first plane back to Oslo, hopefully in time for when the stock exchange opened. And I will stay there to 4 o'clock, then grab my bag, run into the street, get the cab, get to the airport. My life was like that for 1 year. At the end of the year, I had played 180 gigs while having a day job. So I was more or less burnt out. At that time, I had kept on writing lyrics for the band. I'd also started writing short stories, but after that year, I had to take 6 months off. So I told my boss at the brokerage firm, I have to go somewhere, for a long time, 6 months maybe, probably to the other side of the world. So I planned on going to Australia. I told my band I didn't want to go touring for a long time. At the time, a girl at a publishing house, a girl that I had studied with, she had asked me to write a book about the band. And I knew I didn't want to do that. But I say, I may come back from Australia with something else. So I brought my laptop. I got on a plane from Oslo to Sydney, which takes around 30 hours. And I started writing about this guy called Harry Hole. And it was a mix of, Harry was the name of my childhood hero, a local football player, while Hole, which is a common Norwegian name, was the name of the local police officer in the village where my grandmother lived. Me and my brother, we used to go there on summer holidays when we were kids, and our grandmother would always say, if you're not home by 8 o'clock, Hole will come get you. And I never saw this guy, but I imagined him as this, tall, blonde, kind of scary guy. And many, many years later, I was in my hometown, and this old guy, he must be around 90 years old, he would come up to me, and he would, give me his cold, hard hand and stare at me with his cold, icy eyes. And he would say, "I'm Hole." And my first thought, even then, would be, but it's not 8 o'clock yet. I got to Australia in the middle of the night. I checked into a hotel. I was jet lagged, and I sat down and I started writing about this guy called Harry Hole, and I would keep on writing till the sun came up. And so this morning, when I sat there writing, it felt like I was right back in a beautiful town, sitting there in the morning, being jet-lagged, writing about Harry Hole, and I'll keep on doing that. Thank you so much.